Well, I had a stroke this week, but the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals. So you be the judge of who's having the worst week. Here to talk about week 4, our best bets, and everything all around the NFL are your hosts, BM and Berg. What's up, boys?
Hey, how we
Yo,
doing? Week 4, best
hey,
week we had last week as a unit. Pumped.
yeah, but and non-football talk, and Dan alluded to it. Dan, we're glad you're okay.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and how you feeling?
I'm
'Cause
doing good. Eagles are 3-0, so I can live with that. Ready to
it
talk.
was a
Ready to
scary.
talk
It
At the
was
shit.
hospital, they said he bleeds green.
yeah, dude. I know it was a scary few days, man. Like we love you, so it's just
Watching my
not.
blood
Yeah,
pressure in real time, they actually yelled at me for getting excited about the Cowboys losing more than being excited about the Eagles winning. So just know that I'm always a hater first.
my favorite live tweet that you had from there was when you posted a photo of the P jug and said P jug engineering has changed so much over the last 20
Dude, it's
years.
crazy, man. Like I just happened to have my empty Gatorade bottle there and the thing that they were asking me to piss into, and I'm like, dude, imagine we had these handy on the car ride instead of the Gatorade bottle. It's 2023 and there's no slowing down, baby.
They call those trucker bombs if you're driving.
Mm.
I had but before we get into football, I had a roommate like in college, well, college in the summer for an internship, who he would never get up out of bed and would only pee in Gatorade bottles, and then he would just throw them down the hall. And so there, we'd wake up on like Saturday mornings, and there'd be like 6 bottles down the hall of just filled with
I love
urine.
that.
He played football for Syracuse.
We
He ended up becoming he became a
Well,
lawyer.
okay,
Uh,
if we're gonna tell good peace stories, then I gotta say one of my favorite things of like the early 2010s was, if you're familiar with Weird New Jersey at all, one of the things in that book is called the Cookie Jar House, and it's like 2 blocks from where I live, and it's literally a house that's like round and it looks like a tea kettle or a cookie jar, whatever you want. And so all summer we just be getting blackout drunk in my backyard in the pool, playing flip cup with the original Four Loco, dumb shit like that. And dude, whenever like a bunch of us had to pee, we would run 2 blocks to that cookie jar house and just piss on it.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
just
dude.
like an unrelenting amount of piss is on that house. Just if anyone ever buys that property, just know that like we have wanted it for years. Anyway,
anyway, all right. Well, we are here for the Bird and Berg show. We made it through a month's worth of episodes, and that's pretty awesome. So thanks everybody who keeps tuning in, keeps tweeting it, who keeps sharing stuff, because for once it's not just us. And let's just kick it right off. Uh, Birdman, I thought this was a pretty dope question that you put in for all of us to answer. What has surprised Dan? We'll kick it over with you. But what has surprised you the most through the first 3 weeks of the season, both positively and negatively?
damn it, we just talked about this. I had the camera queued up and everything. All right, I'll kick it off. So you both know that all summer, not from a talent point at all, just to be very clear for the millionth time, but I was really worried about Tua. I was worried that his brain was mashed potatoes and that it wasn't really gonna click during the season, that they were gonna put him out there and potentially get him injured again, possibly screw up his career, his life. Who knows? And he has been incredible. He has the highest QBR in the league, the highest QB rating in the league, whichever one of those dumb nerd stats you like more. He's third in yards, first in average yards per attempt. He's only been sacked once. That's the biggest thing, is they're protecting him. They're getting the ball out, and I don't know if you necessarily credit him for this, but I think you credit the Mike McDaniels and the offense and everything. But they're running the ball well too. They are not a one-dimensional offense. I mean, they look incredible. And again, I was only ever worried about his brain, not his talent or his ability. But like I was dead wrong. I mean, they are absolutely on fire. They are a scary thought for anybody. So very welcome surprise, and I'm glad I wasn't rooting against him or anything. I just didn't want to put a ton of betting liability on a guy who I thought could end his career this season. But so far so good for him. And I couldn't be happier for him.
I was actively rooting against Mike McDaniel, but like it's pretty hard. I know, just like dude, the guy's like millennial Chip Kelly. But
Yeah, see, I fucks with that.
Yeah, I don't
know you
mind him.
probably
I
don't.
think he's
but
super. I think he's super
I know.
chill.
I originally no. Look, dude, I was wrong. Like, I
he's
mean, and
he's
that's the
the
thing.
AOC of coaches, so he kind of
He is 100% the AOC of
I
coaches.
mean,
That's a really good.
even like you said, one sack, and that's without Armstead and their left tackle playing. So that's, I mean, for me, like that instantly, like just that. I was saying this to you earlier, is like that was to me like a surefire way that I know that they're a real contender. Like you're not allowing sacks, and they played the Patriots. You know that one sack was Judon, I believe, on Sunday Night Football, and that D line usually gets some sacks. So that's good news. I'll tell you something I am surprised about. How can we do this segment without talking about Puka Nakua? I mean, the guy's just shattering records for most catches in the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He's just been absolutely incredible. To the point where people are hyping him up as like the same dude. He would do the same stuff that Cup was doing, although that's a little exaggeratory.
Most targets in the league right now by far, and receptions of any guy without a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean
46 through 3 games.
There was some crazy stat where it was like third day draft receivers. Like he had more receptions than any third day receiver in like the first like 5 or 6 weeks, I think it was, and he did it in like the first 2. Like I guess no third day receiver rookie has come out and had 25 catches in it took him 5-6 games. So that was incredible.
I do wonder if that stays. Like what ends up being his role when Cup comes back.
Well, I was about to say
because they're like
as a
because
Cooper
now
Cup
they're just like
owner,
yo, Cup's ready.
Yeah,
what's that?
I'm very hyped as a Cooper Cup fantasy owner, seeing what they're actually doing even without him. Seeing Stafford look good again, I'm really excited that I got him in the second round, and nobody cares about your fantasy team, but I'm pretty stoked for that.
I mean,
my wife, by the way, sent me that video that went around, and like she doesn't realize that like all these times I'm pretending to talk about my fantasy team, it's really my bets with you guys. Because if she knew how she knew how much of an empire we were running on that, she'd be like, "This isn't your fantasy team. You guys have money on all these guys."
Yeah, they'll probably run like 2 slots. They'll have both of them in the slot, and just it's gonna be there's offense is still gonna be good, but.
Adam, I know you agree with me on a disappointing team. Why don't we talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, look, I was high on the Rams. Like, we talked to go back from like the Rams and seeing good stuff with the Rams. Like, I like that because you guys saw like I was very high on the Rams all year because like I just thought that they're gonna get the whole team back. We're gonna see what happens. They'll actually be healthy. But I also had high hopes for the Vikings, and the Vikings really stink. And they're 0-3 now, and the only 0-3 team to make the playoffs was the 2018 Texans. And I mean, look, and it's funny because there's parallels because like Kirk Cousins is going to probably break like passing yard records, just like Watson did that year. But it did that. That's what a crazy disappointment. Probably tied with like, yeah, I mean, just Vikings being 0-3 and just looking like as bad as they possibly could on the areas where we thought they were going to improve. It's pretty negatively surprising, I guess is what I want to say.
I was just like you. I was high on the Flores edition and gonna make a difference there, but it's one of those situations where you need the personnel still, and they just don't have good enough players on defense, and they can't stop anybody.
Too many dumb people.
Yeah, the Vikings are the 6th worst defense in terms of total yards, 7th in passing yards allowed, 9th most points allowed, 2nd worst rushing offense, and they're tied for the worst turnover differential. Everybody has talked about the fact that last year they went 11-0 in one-score games. They're 0-3 this year overall, and all of those are one-score games. So take from that what you will. But I had early in the summer, I talked myself into Lions stuff, and then after like a couple Zooms and stuff, I kind of talked myself out of it. And again, like that was because of the Vikings is giving them the benefit of the doubt, giving Kirk Cousins the benefit of the doubt. I know, especially as an Eagles fan, I love to rip him. I love to rip that franchise, but like at least regular season, they're pretty formidable usually, unless they play the Eagles or unless they play in prime time. So, I kind of got off the Lions, and I didn't really I don't think I have much on the Vikings, but it at least took me off the Lions, and now Lions are sitting 3-1, and I don't know if I fully believe it still, but I'm still kind of sitting there looking like maybe I had the right idea, but I don't know. The passing offense looks good enough that maybe they can turn it around and salvage something. But I mean, they're pretty bad right now.
They were the luckiest team last year. They're the unluckiest, or one of the unluckiest teams this year, which it's bound to balance out.
Is there any chance? I've heard whispers. Is there any chance Kirk Cousins is a Jet?
No, they're not going to put that.
This
on
is
the
his
salary.
he's done. His contract ends after this year.
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
And he's how old is he? 32? 30,
something like that. Yeah, I just don't think they're going to sign him and then also pay Aaron next year because this was the cheap Aaron year.
Well, you wouldn't sign him. You would just
You
trade
wouldn't-
for
I
him
don't
this
even-
year,
yeah.
and then you're out on him, so Aaron can come back.
Yeah, and if they can agree to still pay, they do have the extra money to pay him this year. I just don't. I don't know.
I know it's worth
that
looking,
offensive
it's
line
worth
isn't
looking at.
great.
If the Vikings get to 0-4, 0-5, I certainly think they would listen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were saying we were talking about the Dolphins earlier. One player that faced them that is just a complete no show for me and Berg is Khalil Mack. Week 1, I said to myself, "Oh,
yeah,
okay."
dude, he's on a fucking milk carton.
I said no Armstead, no left tackle for the Dolphins. Khalil Mack lines up on that side. He should eat. He's 3 games in, 0 sacks. He has like 6 tackles total. He's just done. I mean, that defense is just as a whole, which we'll talk about. But yeah, it's
they're just like that wasn't even. I don't even feel like that was like a miss as much as that's really disappointing.
yeah.
Because like that was a fun flyer. You and I were very excited about that flyer of like, oh man, dude, he's gonna like at least get like a few sacks and make it interesting. He might as well not even be on that team. Like it's just not even. It's not even like I mean, a lot of guys on the defense. Joe James is a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row. Like
for
they just
having
signed
one
him
of
to
the
a new
best
contract.
for having one of the best quote unquote defensive rosters in football, they just don't perform, and it's been like that for like 3 years.
Well, and it's funny too because you and I both kind of disagree here, and I think that this is a talking point on it for me at least. We were gonna move on to undervalued and overvalued teams, and you think the Chargers are a little overvalued, and I think they're undervalued, and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are kind of the reason why I just kind of have a little hope still for them, because if they start showing up, then there are some guys on that defense, and obviously the offense has pretty much been firing on all cylinders. There is the injury to Mike Williams, but they could be getting Eckler back this week, if not next week. So as much as they've disappointed as far as the record is concerned, the offense has looked good, and if the names on that defense start showing up, I want to give them a little bit more time. So why would you say that they are overvalued?
I guess it's just what you said with hope. I just think that even having a little bit of hope in the Chargers is overvaluing them completely because of this is like the exact same team we've seen under Staley.
It's the exact same team.
If they get rid of
corporate
Staley,
wants you to see the picture.
I mean, he's a defensive
the same
coach
picture.
with talent on the defense, yet their defense isn't talented because they don't stop anybody. So like their offense is great. I'm a big Herbert guy, but Oregon Ducks Nation. But it's one of those things where like I don't know, like against these other teams that have shown, even the Dolphins, where they're missing Ramsey and these guys, or they have a new defense with Fangio, and they still look pretty good, So it's not like a heavy
Well, scoring 70 points a game will also help you look good. So there is that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with that chart, like you nailed it. The Chargers team is this Chargers team looks the exact same as it did last year. Like there's just including the same injuries. Last year, I thought their defense just was like super undisciplined. Like they just took all these bad penalties all the time, especially on third down. And now this year, they're just non-existent. And are they laying? They're laying 5.5. Like, is this literally the same thing that we're going to do again? They're laying 5.5. I know it's the Raiders, but they're laying 5.5.
Well,
why?
It's 5.5 because Jimmy G's still in concussion protocol and is questionable. So it'd be
Jimmy G stinks,
dude. I mean, listen, this is
stinks.
hold on, just to talk about something. I mean, Stroud is going nuts, obviously, so probably dead in the water. I don't know if you're the Raiders, how do you not throw out Aiden O'Connell instead of Brian Hoyer?
I completely agree. And it's
like
not
it actually,
just 'cause
this
you
is
and I have that
exactly what we
bet.
talked about. Is like if Jimmy G gets hurt, it could be live. but like it's just probably
It's not just because you have the bet, but you do have the bet.
we did 150 to 1. Aiden
I'm
O'Connell
also-
most rookie passing yards, but
I'm
Stroud is
also a
lighting the
little
world on
bitter.
fire.
I'm also a little bitter because I had a really good same game parlay in the Sunday night game that the final leg was Jimmy G under 234 yards, which was
Yeah, I tailed
astronomically
that.
high for him. And he went
Goes for, like,
over it, which
320.
apparently he went over while his ankle was messed up and while he had a concussion. So I feel really screwed.
I mean, having
'Cause
Devontae
that
Adams will
would've-
help you
would've
out a
hit.
little
Yeah,
bit.
that
But he
upset
was
me a
fine,
lot.
and he stayed in the third quarter is when that thing happened, is when he got that hit, and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, he's not healthy enough to play next week, but he is going to ruin your parlay."
Yeah, right.
Like, it's just
Adam,
I don't
who
know.
would you say is overvalued?
Bill Belichick. I can't believe we're still playing this game where we're saying
He's
that Bill
washed.
Belichick, like, he's like the Zen master who could just tell every defense. No, he's good at. We've been saying this all for a while. He's very good at rookie quarterbacks, and he does not do well at anything else. And he is washed. And I will say that, like, these lines that are baked in on stuff for this respect that we're giving the Patriots because of things that were done 15 years ago is nuts to me. So Bill Belichick is just completely overrated.
If we're going with things that are nationally overstated and everything, then it's just very easy for me to continue my hater ways and say overvalued. The Dallas Cowboys, as always, they always will.
Always.
Be.
Yeah.
It's just too easy. I don't think I need to go into detail with that.
Their value did take a hit after losing to the Cardinals, but
Right.
there's so many random, I guess, Cowboys fans out there that aren't actually.
There's
real
so many
football
random
fans.
Cowboys fans out there. That is
Well-
absolutely the truth.
Well, that you mentioned the Cardinals, so like I know we just talked about it right before, but like they're like the Cardinals are a positive surprise to me, and the Colts as well. Like the Colts and the Cardinals were these teams that like people love to get excited about who's going to be really bad and who's going to stink and who's tanking. Dude, the Cardinal, like Josh Dobbs has made that team that the Cardinals are fun to watch. And the Colts are definitely fun to watch. And I think it's good for football when the teams that are, at the bottom like that are still entertaining to watch. I mean, it's what we looked at last year with the Bears when people seemed to think that the Bears were a 12-win team when they barely won 3.
Well, I was about to
But
say, you know what team isn't fun to watch? The
Right.
Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and now this year that the Bears aren't. But that was, to me, that is a pleasant surprise, is seeing these bottom teams that like we thought were comically trying, like, JT's not coming to the Colts, and AR's a project.
I mean,
and
even the
Josh Dobbs
Bucks,
is starting quarterback.
Like before the season, you thought Eagles Bucks Monday night was a garbage game, but they both went in 2-0 and made it fun.
They want to do it now.
Yeah.
It was fun. I like that. I think it's good. I think it's. And look, I'd rather watch Baker do well in the NFL because it's better for everybody. It's better for everybody when all the quarterbacks are doing well. It's not good when when a team has to consistently roll out, like, sorry, but a Zach Wilson. Like, it would be really great if Zach Wilson could play well, because that would make it better for everybody who's watching the games. Otherwise, it's just not fun.
I've seen enough starts from Nick Mullins for the 49ers,
Yeah,
like
but
CJ
Berg,
Beathard.
Nate
Bill,
Sut- or
Bill
Nate
Belichick
Sudfeld.
shut down Zach Wilson, so doesn't that mean
Listen,
he's goated still?
Yeah.
I know Giants fans feel differently, but us 3 Eagles fans know that Doug really wanted to take a good look at Nate Sudfeld in that game at that moment.
Right, of course.
Like, he needed to get a good look at him. He needed to make sure he's okay, So but we're not seeing that, which is what I like.
BM, talk to us about a undervalued team that we have, and then we can move into our picks.
Yeah, I think it's the Buffalo Bills. Say what you want. There's plenty of people out there that, don't that doubt Josh Allen can, win in the playoffs or whatever. But I mean, they had an awful loss against the Jets week 1, and then they just come out and stomped bad teams. Now they could just only stomp bad teams and shit the bed against good teams. But I just think people are just quick to dismiss them because they've failed the past couple of years, but their roster is still solid. And they just put the work in on a couple teams. So I just think they're a little undervalued in like the national discussion compared to a few years ago. And to be honest, that's probably the best time to buy teams in general, right? Like the Bills were so unreasonably the favorite 3 years in a row coming into the season. You're like, why? Like, why the hell would the Bills be favored? They literally haven't even made the Super Bowl. And this year they come in like 10-1, and everyone's like, no one wants to bet them because of those failures. So I think they're just a little undervalued.
Well, it
You
goes
dis
to what Berg said. I mean, it's a quarterback league, and Josh Allen has been very up and down, especially in the postseason. He's shown that he can be a turnover machine, but then you see the last 2 weeks where he looks like the guy that everyone thought is the perfect prototypical quarterback, and so at least he's getting hot now because that makes arguably the most exciting game of the season so far on the slate for Sunday, which is Buffalo and Miami.
Yeah.
people dismissing the Bills the way Cole Beasley was dismissing mask mandates. Um, I've been waiting for that joke. No, the other thing, I mean, but to the point with the Bills is that at 9-1, keep in mind that team was what 4-1 to win the Super Bowl. Dan, I can see you laughing. My original joke was worse than that.
I know,
but if so, that's to the point on that. If anybody wants like a future to kind of think about, like when you listen to this, if you bet, like now is the time to bet the Bills Super Bowl and bet Josh Allen MVP if you want to do that, because if they beat Miami this weekend, they'll
It's cut in
one be in the
half.
driver's seat for that division, and two, those odds will be definitely cut in half.
Well, that's good thing we used some free bets on that already.
Yeah, it's a great thing that we use free bets on that.
I do like Buffalo for what it's worth, just a little bit, I think.
I like fins up.
Anyway, so we're gonna go into our around the horn, our 3 best bets for the week. Last week we went 6-2-1. Everybody with a winning week, our absolute best week. I went 2-1. BM went 2-0-1, and Berg went 2-1. We're 14-12-1 overall in the year, so we are up. So great job, everybody. We want to keep that going into this week. So I'll kick it off here, and my first pick is DeAndre Swift. The official pick will be his 75 yards plus rushing at plus 140 on DraftKings, but I do have that ladder to 100 yards at plus 400 and 125 plus at 1100. He has 44 carries over the past 2 games for a total of 305 yards, just shy of 7 yards per carry. Even with Kenny Gainwell back this past week, it did not deter from them giving the ball to DeAndre Swift, and Gainwell's touches did not look nearly as impressive as Swift's, so if there was any trepidation that Gainwell could go back to the Week 1 version who ate all the carries, as Swift only had 1 rush in Week 1, I think until Swift either has those classic injury concerns or makes some kind of terrible mistake, I think this is now pretty much solely his job, so I'm all in on him. The Redskins' defensive line is composed of 4 first-round picks. They are very good. I will not discount that whatsoever, but the Eagles' offensive line is the best in football. They've proven it. And what did the Eagles do? What did they do to Michael Parsons last year? What did they do to Bill Belichick? I mean, what do they do to a team's greatest thing against them? Is they go right at it. They run at it. That's what this team does. I think the loss to Washington last year will make them not take this game lightly. So I'm all in on DeAndre Swift, and I know Berg, you're in on this with me. We've talked about it at length.
We also all collectively tanked a line, a part of the ladder this morning, which was great. That was fun. That's a reason you got to be in the Discord. Like I hate using that thing, but that is like we all thought. Like last night we randomly you put this in, and then I was like, why the heck is 125 at 12-1 when he did it 2 straight games, and then the next day it was off the board for a couple hours, and then people in the Discord hit it, and now it's I believe down to 10-1 or 9-1. So which is still fun, but not nearly as egregious as 12-1 for a guy who's done it 2 times. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Well, so I mean, I'd thought about some ones in the Eagles game, but ultimately I didn't want to go birds heavy, but we were just talking about the Bills, so I got one that I really like for the Bills. I going back to the well for Josh Allen on the over 35.5 rushing yards. And actually I want to get your guys' take on this. So I'm between his 35.5 rushing yards, and here's my case for it is he's off that wake up game. And Dan mentioned that before, and Birdman, you mentioned that too. Dolphins have actually, the one weakness that they have had on their defense is they actually allow a lot of yards to running backs. They've allowed a running back to exceed this in every single game. The totals like in the low 50s in this game, which is pretty high, which indicates that everybody's sort of live. And he's hit the number in the last 3 games against the Dolphins. And on the fourth one, it would be 4 in a row. He had 35. Like I said, Dolphins are 24th in the league in rushing yards allowed this year. So I want your guys' take. My alt that I was thinking about for this, because this is high. It's like right on that cusp of where you could take it. His alt over is the alt is over 13.5 longest rush, which he's also done every single time. Which of these do you think at this point is a better kind of bet?
I'll give you I'll give you another one just to ponder so you can think about it. But he's averaged 400 plus passing plus rushing yards in the last three. His line's at like 311.5. I've been tracking it a little bit. It opened at like 309, went up to 312, down back. Now it's back up. He's averaged 400 in those three matchups that you're talking about. So if you he loves playing hero ball. He's dominated the Dolphins. So if you like end up being torn, you're like, damn, I don't know if he's gonna run this. You might as well just take passing plus rushing because you know he's gonna. The only difference is this year James Cook is actually a threat. So that does take some of it. But like passing
because if
plus
he
rushing,
runs, he's gonna get one of the, he's hit over that longest, and so it's just a matter of.
Well, it's like he could get
275.
Like he can get like 275 to 280, something like that passing. Then you only need 30 rushing. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Cook, so I love the idea of the passing plus the rushing, just because and if I'm going from what you gave Berg, then I would love his longest run because he's gonna have one of those plays where he goes off. But
right.
I don't know if I love the volume necessarily because again, if everything says this is a boat race between them, then. Yeah, he could air it out for 350 and then you cash either way. So I love that play, BM. I definitely think I'm going to play that, but I would probably sprinkle on the longest run too for sure.
Okay, so then the official play is still the 35.5, but I would also say put a half. I'm going to say sprinkle a half a unit on this 13.5 longest rush.
I love that.
I like it.
So
yeah, that's solid. My first one, I'm going to go with the Jags. Jacksonville Jags in London. The first half -1.5 at -115 at Bet Rivers. If you don't have Bet Rivers, fine with 2.5 on Caesars -110. Last week, one of the two winners was Lions first half, and they were playing the Falcons. I like to fade this Falcons offense. Falcons are now 0-8 first half ATS in their last 8. Dating back to last year. Like I mentioned last week, the play calling has been awful in the first half for the Falcons. I mean, even last week it was just awful in general.
Especially in the red zone. The red zone offense is just ugh.
Yeah, and fuck Desmond Ritter.
Fuck Desmond Ritter.
And Ritter's never won a road game in his whole career.
I'm convinced he's never won a game in his whole career. I don't care what.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. By the way, in full disclosure for everyone who's listening to this for the first time, all of us were on various Falcon props the last 2 weeks, including Pitts, London, Bijan. Everyone was.
I almost gave 2 this week, and I deleted both of them. I was like, I can't do it again, but I do like Ritter INT anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, we also both were on the Lions last week, but last week the Lions. They focused heavily on stopping the Falcons' rush attack, and it was extremely successful. Jags are actually 6th in opponent yard per rush at 3.4 and 7th in opponent rushing yards per game, allowing 84. And they were actually 7th last year as well. I just expect Dougie P to get these guys prepped and ready. They are kind of in desperation mode. They're 1-2. Colts are 2-1 playing a home game, so they need wins. And they probably should be a little bit more comfortable in London just because of Jags are always in London, so I'd expect them to come out here and win the first half. And you get away from those shenanigans of an entire game of the Falcons' pass rush, just getting to Lawrence because their O-line's still a little bit messy. But
which, as you're talking about them being in London, this is a really good time to tell people the Jags look-ahead line is +4.5, and they're staying in London 2 straight weeks.
Yeah.
So it is a very good time to bet that before.
They're playing the Bills though, right?
Yes, but which is fine. But like, let's assume that they win this, that gets shorter. Like, it's more about like they're in London for 2 straight weeks. The Bills are not.
Well,
so
I'm saying I do like it. My only concern is that if the Bills win, it goes up.
Yeah, but also if the Jags win, the sharp side would probably be hitting that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth getting a bet on, and then you.
It's a dead number. Like they knew what they're doing on that. Like it's 4.5, but like it's just something to think about because I mean, if that number went to 7, everybody would get that. But like, I don't see that number getting higher than 5.5, if that. If it went that
Yeah, I would
direction.
hope for a 6 if anything, but probably
Yeah,
not.
and they're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well,
So
I'll kick off
go.
round 2, I guess, because we all got one in so far. So my second pick is pretty much everything Jamar Chase this week. I'll make the official play over 82.5 receiving yards. He has 22 catches on 32 targets in 3 games so far. In order of games played, he has 26% of the team's targets, 19%, and 29% of their targets through the first 3 games. Tennessee has been getting killed by wide receiver ones. Chris Olave went for 8 and 110. Keenan Allen went for 8 and 112. And Amari Cooper went for 7 and 116. And even beyond that, Rashid Shaheed had 5 for 89. Michael Thomas had 5 catches. Mike Williams had 8 for 83. So the Tennessee pass defense is bleeding out. Jamar Chase has been loud, vocal about wanting the ball, being set up for success. They went heavy to him last week, but it still doesn't seem like that was enough for him. Burrow's a little bit banged up. I would like to think he'll be at least a nominal amount healthier this week, and I expect him to air it out. I love anything you can get on Chase, receptions, yards, all that stuff, and I don't mind any of the other receivers either, but officially I'll stick to Jamar Chase over 82.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, the Titans, they're allowing 19 catches for 230 yards to receivers.
Wow.
It's unreal. They're like literally like playing, like it's like playing Madden and you put the controller down when you're on defense.
I do like a DM though. I mean, I did take a bet on Higgins overall. I think you can't go wrong with that. The matchup. The Bengals are targeting receivers 70% of the time. And that's third highest rate. Titans still first in yards per rush, fourth in rush yards per game allowed. So, and like 26th in yards per completion allowed. So, their defense is as pass funnel as you can possibly get. So,
yeah,
can't go
and
wrong.
A tied to that, it's a play that I like. That's not for the show, but like it's visual. I love Burrow over passing attempts for the exact reasons that you guys are talking about. Like he's hitting over 40, and this is like a supreme matchup for that, and they've made it very clear that they want to pass the ball.
Yeah, I was telling BM, like, it's crazy because I think universally everybody thinks Joe Mixon's pretty good, and yet this team runs like 70 pass to 30 run split, like no matter what's happening. They just
it's pretty clear that they're like actively trying to not use him too.
I was also saying to Dan that some of that is matchup, right? They played Ravens and Browns, some good run Ds, but the other thing with that is the Titans. I saw a crazy stat. They allowed 91% completion rate to passes 9 yards or fewer last week, and we watched that Monday night game, and Burrow just dink and dunked all the way down the field. So he's probably gonna have to do that again.
Yeah,
my second bet though is the Rams first half money line minus 106 on FanDuel. Colts over the past 2 years have been atrocious in the first half on the money line, 3-14 overall. And at home, they're 1-7, although that was a different coaching staff and quarterback. I think their defense was a bit better, though, last year. They can stop the run, the Colts D, but Stafford is obviously more than happy to air it out and just move the ball through the air, which I think they'll have some success doing. Colts do put up some points in the first half this year, averaging 15, but at home, their one home game was 7 points. They allowed 14 in their one home game, which was above their average for the year. Colts get Anthony Richardson back. He should make some noise, but they are missing a few offensive linemen. Aaron Donald should absolutely eat. I just like that. I think this is a defense that McVay will be able to prep for pretty easily, just because of the way that they play cover 3, and I think Stafford will be able to just pick them apart. Probably a big Puka Nacua week, so I'll probably get on some of his props too.
Puka Nacua, baby.
Yeah,
but give me the Rams first half money line minus 106 on FanDuel.
Well, I love that you're approaching it much like as you bet a Alabama college team and you only want them in the first half. I want them for the whole game. That's my second play is Rams money line for the game. You named all the reasons. Those reasons carry over for me in the second half of the game. I'm actually, when people come back from concussions, they're more susceptible to getting more concussions. That's just what happens, especially if you are a younger player and you were trying to figure out how the game works and the timing works. Dr. Berg. My dad's a neurologist. So I mean I did but look, I like the Rams in this game. I obviously we've given the Rams a lot of love. We've almost treated them like we do the Broncos, but I'll take the Rams as the slight road dog. I think this game's now down to a pick 'em at circa, but give me the
fit a
Rams.
trend too.
The other trend that the other trend that I have
Big trends
Birdman
guy.
is Q card. Yeah, well,
I
Birdman,
like him.
aka Q card. Um, since 2019, when teams that had 6 wins or less the year before, when they are road dogs of a touchdown or less, they cover it like a 65% clip. And it's basically it's the public perception of a team that was stunk last year on the road as a dog. A lot of them actually end up being divisional matchups where this happens, but it's inconsequential whether division or not division. So give me the Rams money line. I think I got it earlier at like minus 107 because it's literally down to a pick 'em. So yeah. You can probably find it even money too, but it's widely available all over the place. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The Rams first half money line that I did get out was even money when I took it, but we like minus 107.
So if you guys are aligned on that, Berg, I'm going to put you on the spot and make you give another play then. So give us what your next play would be.
Well, I mentioned our other team that we love, the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a play from that Broncos team. Javonte Williams over 8.5 yards for his longest catch, minus 125 at DraftKings. Look, the Bears have the worst, they have the worst a lot of things, but one of those things being their defense against running backs. The DVOA last in the league. Javonte has hit this in 2 straight, 5 of his last 7. Bears have allowed an opposing running back to hit over an 8.5 yard longest catch in every game. And the big thing for me is that his receiving total is set at around 12.5, 13.5, but his catches he only gets like 2 targets a game. So he only gets 2 catches. So this has to really happen for the overall number to happen. So this is sort of like what we talked about with the Josh Allen stuff, where you got to get that long run to get to the other ones, get that chunk play. I'll take this. I paid a little bit of the juice for it. I mean, look, I think he hits both because it's just a really good matchup
He's
for it.
hitting
But what's that?
He's hitting both.
Yes, he's hitting both. But like this effectively is a bet on him catching one to get a first down. So 8.5 over Javonte Williams for the longest reception.
I mean, we talked about it. I did take his receiving yards because I mean he did have 4 catches week 1. Just saying. But this is one thing that doesn't really get talked about. This is his 4th game back from injury, so like they're going to start ramping him up. They don't plan to make this a 50-50 timeshare with P. Ryan. He did play 6 more snaps than him last week, even though that was the blowout. And Broncos are targeting running backs 26% of their pass attempts, which is the third highest third highest rate in the league. Like you said, Bears allowing 56 to running backs through the air. So
yeah, they'll both hit. They'll both hit. Just,
I think he gets like 20 plus. I'm actually going to look at 25 plus. Because if this is a close game, the toilet bowl, then I think that they're going to be able to use him a lot. I mean, if you look at some of the receiving yardage, even though each individual back only had 2 catches or so, last week the Chiefs were in a blowout, but they used everybody, and I expect Broncos to use both. But I'll go with my last play is Dak Prescott. This is in the 4:00 slate, over 20.5 pass completions. Minus 125 on FanDuel. He has 13, 31, and 25 this year. He's hit this 12 of 15 games dating back to last year. They are coming off that Cardinals loss, facing a solid Pats run defense, allowing 3.6 yards per rush, 93 yards a game, both ninth in those stats. So good run D. I think they're going to have to move the ball through the short passing game. Opposing teams are passing the ball about 58% of the time versus the Pats D, which is like 17th in the league. But last week, I thought this was kind of funny when I was looking at these stats. The Jets passed the 64% of the time versus the Pats, which is like hilarious. Like I know they were losing, but I don't think you're going to win any games having Zach Wilson pass 64% of the time. They are allowing 20 completions on 33 attempts per game. So I do expect the Cowboys to have to move the ball through the short passing game. Pats could keep it close. So I do think it's going to be a bit of a game there. So give me Dak over 20.5 pass completions, -125 on FanDuel.
And the Dak primetime special of an interception.
Let's keep it
Got to give
going. I
that out.
mean,
Got to give that out too.
which one?
It's probably plus. I think it's even money. Got to get the Dak primetime special.
Oh, yeah.
Are they on primetime? Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, it's a 4
no,
o'clock
the
slate.
Chiefs.
But
Oh, never mind. Forget it. System play. Not in.
yeah, but yeah. I mean, I like what we got here. Just saying, 5-0-1 last 2 weeks. Let's keep it going, boys.
Sure. No, totally.
Dan, what do you got for your last one here?
All right, I'll close it out here with our Colts, as we've mentioned. Fun teams and everything. AR-15 comes back this week. Either way, him or Minshew, I would still be on Michael Pittman over 5.5 receptions.
Love this play.
It's hitting 7 out of 10, and this season he has had 8, 8, and 9. So, regardless of who's back there, he is the number one receiver. He's crushing this number, so not much else to say about it. The Rams' defense is fine. I expect the Colts to put up some points. I think this is a game where they both get into probably the low 20s. So, I like Michael Pittman this week.
Like you were saying earlier, we saw what Chase just did. He had caught a billion balls, so
yeah,
he probably should. And me and Berg both like the Rams. We do think they win, so I think it could be a little trailing game script, which helps.
Yeah, fit the game script. Yep, we love game script.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but to the reason why Pittman is great is just without that offensive line, the fact that he can just catch those balls right there and just move around. It's very similar to that Ravens game, and yeah, I think it's great. And the other thing that like kind of goes unnoticed with that team is that the Colts are getting off the most plays in a game of any. They actually have the fastest pace, believe it or not. So
surprising.
That lends itself, given that Pittman's like really their most dynamic player on offense who's not a quarterback, to be able to catch a lot of those.
Correct.
So it's a great look.
Best segment in sports. Looking for in sports media podcasting, the whole 9. Silence on the floor, please.
So I don't really have anything spicy this week. I kind of stood on my high horse last week and went after somebody. I thought I'd try to kill everybody with kindness this week a little bit. I'm even going as far as to not mute your microphones. I'm such a gentleman. Things have changed, but I just wanted to say thanks to you guys especially, and to a lot of people on Twitter, in the Discord, all social medias and stuff, for checking in on me this week. If you don't know, I did have a minor stroke this past weekend, or at some point, I'm not sure, and spent the majority of this week in the hospital. So very scary for me. I don't want to harp on that. I'm not asking for any sympathy or pity or anything, but just one, if you don't feel right, despite all issues it may cause financially or inconvenience or whatever, get yourself looked at. I won't harp on it, but I am not a fan of healthcare in this country, and none of this was particularly easy or cheap or anything for me. But at the end of the day, it is your health, and as much of a nihilist as I am, and as much as I love to joke about things, it is very, very scary to be in that moment facing your own mortality. So, get yourself checked out. But mainly, I just want to thank so many people for messaging me and checking in and being there and keeping me company, whether that was via text or voice chats or coming to visit me or whatever. It's crazy how there's so much bad with social media, but me especially, between tailgates and Philly sports and music and stuff, I've met a lot of people because of the internet, including the two guys that so graciously let me produce this show for them. So as much as there are a lot of bad things, there are a lot of great things, and a lot of the people that kept me going and just helped me get through all those days in the hospital. A lot of them are because of the internet and social media, and crazy enough, Philly sports, music, all that, but betting culture too. It's crazy. There's a lot of toxic things as far as addiction and how much it's built into our broadcast and how heavily people want you to do it, and we all try to be very educational and smart about all that. But the community can be great. Community and anything can be great. So I'm very appreciative for that. I'm very happy to be able to be out, to be able to still be able to do this as best I can. And again, just want to say thanks to everybody.
Yeah, man, we're happy you're happy you're all right.
Yeah, hope you're better.
Definitely caught off guard, but
Let's hit a goddamn juicer so I can pay for 4 days in the hospital. Let's go.
Let's do it. This is a good way to say yeah. So since it is very expensive to get sick, we need to hit one of these TD parlays, don't we? So Fistful of TDs is back in session. Gonna build it live. Dan, which which player are you gonna kick this off with?
Well, to no surprise, since I said how much I'm in on Jamar Chase, I'm going to go ahead and take his anytime touchdown at plus 120. I think he's due for a big game. Like I mentioned, I'm betting almost anything on him. One of the things I learned from week 1 this season was to not go too heavy on guys to score twice, guys to have these monster games. But we're a couple weeks in. We have some data now. He's clearly on the rise. He at the beginning of the year, if you looked at futures and stuff like that, he was expected. I think he was the favorite, if not, top 3 in pretty much everything, to be the yards leader, the touchdowns leader, everything like that. So it stands to reason that he's going to get those chances. He hasn't scored as of late. Last week was a breakout game as far as targets, receptions, yards. We've mentioned why the Tennessee pass defense is so bad, and I think that the Bengals very much could be in a route position, and if that's going to happen, it's likely going to involve Jamar Chase getting into the end zone. Birdman, who do you like this week?
So I'm gonna go with stay with the Jags, stay with London, and go with Christian Kirk plus 210 on FanDuel, which I'm a little surprised it's still over 2-1 on FanDuel. A lot of the other books are like 170 or lower. Zay Jones is out again. Kirk scored last week, although they had a stinker at home versus the Texans. Everyone and their sister and their mother and their aunt, grandma is going to be betting Calvin Ridley revenge game this week. And I don't doubt that he's going to have a big game. I do think it could be one of those games where I don't know why I got this feeling, but everyone gets disappointed because he has 1 billion yards but doesn't actually score. So I'll take Christian Kirk in this one.
I was going to mention Ridley too because his number's pretty good. I think you can get him around like plus 160, plus 170 at some places.
It's going to be one of the most popular.
Yeah, but I think that
bets.
those two are interesting to me because they're both very good and very well could, and it's kind of the opposite of me. I've had this conversation with a lot of people this season so far about AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and their numbers are always nuked, and it's like, could they score either week? Yeah, but is there a lot of value betting either of them when they're taking targets from each other, combined with the Eagles' run play, having Jalen Hurts, Swift, whoever you want to talk about? So the fact that it's not like Kirk's 2-1, but it's not because Ridley's a favorite either. You could bet both of them.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good chance you could get either of them. So I love either of them, but I definitely love Christian.
My only concern is the low total in the game and being London. But Kirk played. Kirk was on the Jags last year when they played in London. He should be a little bit more comfortable than Ridley. I don't know. Berg. Is this another mystery one? Because on the rundown there is no name.
No, it's not. We talked about it, but
oh wait, you're right. I put it.
Yeah, you couldn't remember it.
No, leave the suspense. Leave the suspense.
It is suspense. I already live.
Yeah.
I thought you were doing a bit. I was proud of you. Damn it.
I'm not. No. But by the way, I will also say I was just also checking a stat on Javonte Williams. He absolutely can do both of these, but he is absolutely not a reliable pass catching person. His target share goes down all over the place, but he will hit both of these.
Low sample size.
I'm talking from last year. But
yeah.
We're on the same team. All right. So anyway, point is Tank Dell. I don't care. Tank Dell. Tank Dell plus 300's in there. Tank Dell, whether he realizes it or not, is CJ Stroud's favorite target. And by that, I mean, he is not targeting him in the red zone. That's actually Robert Woods, but he targets him. He gets 40% of the team's air yard share. What is something that the Pittsburgh Steelers actually are not very good at? They are not very good at controlling pass yardage to opposing quarterbacks. So he's had touchdowns in 2 straight games. It's still at plus 300. He's been at plus 500 up until now. Part of this is that this guy's going to be in the 2s like everybody else or lower starting after this week after he scores again. So Tank Dell, give me a 25, 30-yard bomb scamper in there, just like it would happen with like Devontae Adams against the Steelers. Give me that with the Texans. With a quarterback we know that loves to throw it, and that should give us a little bit of juice on this too.
Yeah, I have it built. It's 26-1.
Nice.
Yo,
which is pretty juicy. And
perfect for our first hit.
I think the
Yeah.
Steelers D line, will give a little bit of fits to the Texans, but I think that'll create the opportunity for them to just keep passing. Any game script, Stroud has been passing.
Well, that's their red zone their red zone offense isn't efficient. It's their bomb offense that is efficient. Like their red zone offense has been bottom, but what they've been doing is they've been scoring on big air yard plays, and this is the guy to do it. He's done it in 2 straight games.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
it's
He
good.
sounds like a fullback to me. I can't get over the fact that this is a big
Tanked
play
out.
guy.
How about anybody who has a fantasy team who has both tanks on their team? There's 2 guys who got drafted this year. His name
Oh
is
yeah,
Tank.
true. Totally forgot about that.
All right, so I will go around the horn and go over our plays for the week.
Oh, before you do that, the parlay, we will post it, on social media probably
No, we
tomorrow.
won't.
at some
No, we
point.
won't. They have to listen to this.
That too. Yeah, if you're listening, you already know what it is. But if you're not,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
it'll
Also,
be
if you're
there.
not listening, and never mind. It won't be.
Yeah, if you're not listening, fuck off.
Wow. Okay.
We also will post stuff in the Discord that doesn't end up anywhere and is just random stuff and it's reasonings and all sorts. There's a lot of extra money to be made in the Discord,
Yeah, but you also have to
and
see
not just on nudes.
You also see. Damn it. Stole my thunder. All right. Again, we went 6-2-1 last week. We are 14-12-1 overall. My official picks for the week are DeAndre Swift 75 plus rushing on DraftKings at plus 140, unofficially adding the ladder of 100 and 125 yards respectively. Jamar Chase over 82.5 receiving yards, but again, anything you can get on him, I'm on. And then Michael Pittman over 5.5 receptions. For BM, we have the Jags first half spread minus 1.5. We have the Rams first half money line, and we have Dak Prescott over 20.5 completions. And for Berg, we have Josh Allen over 35.5 rushing yards. The Rams money line on the total game, and Javonte Williams over 8.5 for his longest catch. So, boys, before we wrap up here for another great episode, do you have any final words, any final thoughts you want to give to the people?
Heart.
Yeah,
yours.
heart. No, I don't have. I was just trying to think of a word. I mean, I'm not just gonna say like London, but
You just did.
yeah. You know what? Actually,
Yeah,
the one
except
thought
you
I
did.
will say, because no one cares about your fantasy team, so this is extremely
Correct.
important, is make sure to set your lineups before the 9 o'clock London game,
Ooh.
because
Good call.
Good call.
That's a
that,
good call.
that comes up kind of quick. I mean, we'll probably all be up. Well, we definitely will be, but
I will definitely be up.
well, yeah,
I will probably not be.
yeah. I'll
Hey,
be in the
wait,
tailgating
Birdman,
lots.
can you make sure that on the People's Parlay that when people submit things that they're not heavily loading it with the London game and tying it to
Yeah,
everything else?
That's definitely. Yeah, we took a week off last week from the People's Parlay, but we definitely need to get one this week. And yeah, that always happens when I used to do it for baseball. People be like,
I know,
"Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
this,
I
this,
need
and
everything
this."
in this game.
And I'm like, "Dude, you guys just gave me 6. It's 11:30. You just gave me 6 props for noon." I'm like, "This isn't gonna work. I need like 7 p.m. games." I'm not starting the People's Parlay 9 a.m. and then guys get scratched. But
Yeah, dude.
yeah, it's gonna be a good week. We're gonna build off of it. 6-2-1 as a squad. We're gonna go. I was telling Dan, if we go 9-0 or 0-9, we're gonna think of something to have shame us,
We don't go
or
0-9.
to shame us, or to celebrate. I'm
If
not
we
a
go
victory
0-9,
lover,
we
but
might have to stop doing the show.
yeah.
0-9, we may not. 0-9, it's gonna be a 1-800.
0-9, and
type of situation.
0-9, and the show becomes an OnlyFans site.
Oh no, that's
Yeah,
worse.
everything becomes gated.
Oh god. Adam, any final words?
No, man, I'm just glad you're good. Good to be around friends, and I'm glad that I'm glad you're here. That's it.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and subscribe, the whole 9.
There you go.
And
Talk shop, baby.
let's get after it. If you want to listen to the podcast as well, we'll put it in podcast
We're on
form.
Apple Podcasts now. I'm figuring stuff out.
Let's go.
Ooh, and another plug for the Discord. The Discord is now the official exclusive place where you can read Birdman's write-ups on each of his plays, which are actually extremely informative and they're very good because he puts a lot of effort into them. So you should read them. We make jokes about this,
all
but
jokes aside,
he puts the effort in. All jokes aside, he puts the effort in, and it's worth reading them. And now the Discord is the exclusive place where you can read those.
We go hard in the paint.
All socials at Berg. Like, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. I'm not sure how it works on Spotify, if I'm being honest with you.
I don't know how it is either.
I know I do put like polls and questions on there. So if you listen on Spotify, if you see those, if you want to interact, it'll make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So that's cool. Subscribe and follow on Twitch. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on the socials. I think that's all the housekeeping. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
You were fired. You were fired.
Everybody point. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and glad we finally got this whole thing figured out.
Peace.